Okay. Let me just have a look at. Okay, so welcome everyone to this podcast session. I have with me Professor Sivakumar Vilayatham. Professor Sivakumar has a vast experience and in the field of accounting. He has been the former dean of Nila University, and he has worked in so many different universities across the world, starting from Massey University in New Zealand, then Charles Darwin University in Australia, then Sultan Qaboos University, Oman. Then he came back to Malaysia and took care of the Nilai Business School. And today we are really pleased to have Professor Shiva Kumar, and we will have a chat with him about the future of accounting profession in developing country. I believe we don't have much insight on this issue. So, um, Professor, without further ado, I would like to ask you to give us a very simple insight on the changes that you have witnessed in the accounting profession in your professional career.
Thank you, Rashidu. It's been good to catch up with you after, your stint in Malaysia and
Yeah.
now you're in Coventry.
Yeah.
I hope you're enjoying it there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it is always great to have a chat. Like I really miss all those old days where uh, after the office hour we would just have some cup of tea and discuss about things. It was really,
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
just wanted to have a virtual reminiscence of those
Yeah.
experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Malaysia, everything is done over a cup of tea,
Yeah.
basically. So, yeah, I think, I don't know. I mean, I probably started my career at Massey University in New Zealand in 1990, basically, when as an assistant lecturer. And I think the profession has changed a lot. And today, talking about the profession, I just want to make some historical comments, basically. I think frequently when we talk about professions, we are frequently talking about from the Anglo-American perspective, basically, because frequently if we go to look at the accounting profession, it's always attributed to the chartered accountants of Scotland, basically, as the first professional accounting body in the world. That's probably because the Anglo-American model based on the common law approach kind of is quite different from the European model, which is very much, everything is very clearly stipulated in the law. So the common law approach gives a lot more flexibility and scope and room for professional judgment, I guess. So, so there started the professional bodies. And these professional bodies basically, the objective was, of course, always every professional body, whether it's medicine or engineering, always talks about, we are working in the public interest. We want to develop the accounting profession. We want to develop the accounting discipline and such wise. But of course, in the background, it is basically a qualifying organization which seeks to limit the number of people so that the market is not flooded by, too many people. And of course, to do that, they always say, there's specialized knowledge and people need to, go through qualifying exams and such wise. So they are basically organizations which seek to control, the discipline as well as the number of people who work in that area, basically, and say. So yeah, so that's to a large extent the historical background. And when we talk about developing countries, like in, I was born and brought up in Malaysia. The accounting profession and most of these developing countries we're talking about are countries that got their independence from the United Kingdom. I mean, just like your country of Bangladesh, basically. So countries that got their independence, the profession in those countries only started from the point of independence.
Yeah.
before that, of course, there were professional accountants, qualified professional accountants, but they frequently belonged to either the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, or basically they belong to the ACCA or the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. So I think that is where we can go back to the point of, the professions starting in, these developing countries. And when we look at professional bodies in these developing countries, the impetus for forming professional bodies in these developing countries was the same as, the search for independence in those countries, because they wanted to, sovereignty over the profession. We want to have the same kind of organizations that the colonial powers had, basically, but locally controlled and locally governed. Maybe how do you find it? I guess it's the same in Bangladesh.
Yeah, of course. We are also adopting all those practices and policies, and we are actually, what I have seen that in our countries and also in India, in Pakistan, and in this part, we are very quick on adopting all those policies, and because our legal structure is also shaped within the Commonwealth structure, we find it
Yes.
easier to adopt all the qualifying bodies that are actually providing this type of info, like qualification, whether it is in accounting, engineering, or medicine. So we are
Yeah.
also actually following almost a similar structure in terms of
Yeah.
all of the qualifying bodies that we
Yeah.
have around the world.
Yeah. You see. So actually, I think from the Malaysian perspective, and this is very similar. I mean, like India, you have the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, which kind of, adopt kind of very similar to the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. And also in India, I think they had the Institute of Cost and Works Accountants for a long time, which was very similar to, going back to the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants today, basically.
Yeah.
They also started off as cost and management accountants, Institute of Cost and Management Accountants. So I think, this was like a mirror image of what was existing in UK. So I think, firstly, this organization, basically in Malaysia, I think the first professional body is the MACPA, the Malaysian Association of Certified Public Accountants, or MICPA. They started, and they basically frequently adopted the examination style of ICAEW. They adopted the, code of ethics and all those, very, very similar to the ICAEW, basically. And then, of course, as, the countries kind of became independent and such wise, you started having, the other point is basically that when these professional bodies were formed in the developing countries which got independence, they were very elitist, because they excluded a lot of people like the local universities, because they adopted the same thing as ICAEW. The ICAEW initially was very elitist, basically.
Okay.
You see, and that is the reason for the formation of the ACCA in UK, because to become ICAEW member last time, you had to work in the chartered accounting firms. If not, you could not become one. Whereas ACCA kind of, opened up. You could work outside the chartered accounting firms, and you could sit for exams even though you did not have an articleship and such wise. So that contributed the popularity of ACCA in UK at that time. And so in the same way, the MACPA or MICPA in Malaysia was basically very elitist as well, you see.
Okay.
And when this elitism was there, members of ACCA and all that were not happy that they could not belong to the local body. And so they frequently in Malaysia, they lobbied the government to have a kind of, an act to regulate the accounting profession. And so that is where the Malaysian government, I think, issued the Malaysian, the act to form the Malaysian Institute of Accountants, or the MIA. you see. So that became the body to form the, the governing body of the accounting profession in Malaysia. And I think that was early 1960s. And basically after that, of course, in Malaysia, we had in 1969, the race riots in Malaysia, and a new government which kind of emphasized, professional development, formation of new universities to uplift the indigenous people, the Bumiputras.
Okay.
You see, yeah.
I think, Prof, in your latest paper, you have discussed about the pre and post developments of accounting professional bodies and education since like 1997. So if you can elaborate, like, what was the impact of this formation of MIA in Malaysia
Okay.
overall in terms of accounting professional education and qualification?
Yeah, the MIA was very interesting because at first when the MIA was formed, they, unlike the MACPA, they basically accepted members of ACCA, CPA Australia, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Australia, and on all these bodies which had some members in Malaysia, basically, you see. And of course, the 1969 race riots in Malaysia was a turning point in Malaysia, because after that, what MIA did was it changed the admission of members to not only members of professional bodies, but automatic admission to membership of all government university graduates.
Okay.
So that was a big change. So all government university graduates in Malaysia could become members of MIA. So that basically expanded MIA considerably, you see. And that was part of the affirmative action policy of the Malaysian government. So that affirmative action actually contributed to a lot of, big development in Malaysia. And of course, you would have heard about the Asian tigers and the new tigers in Asia, which Malaysia was considered to be one of them at that time. And this went on, I think, until the 1997 Asian financial crisis. The 1997 Asian financial crisis had a phenomenal impact because what it did basically is it actually contributed to weakening of a lot of the affirmative action policies.
Okay.
So the government, wanted to only provide, you could not, the government did not allow private universities in Malaysia, for example, for a long time. Just around 1997, just before that, I think, they started allowing private universities. The reason was very simple. When the Asian financial crisis happened, the Malaysian ringgit, which was 2.4 to $1, went to 4.8 to $1. Yeah. So that kind of doubled the cost of Malaysians who were sending their children overseas to study. So when Malaysians could not afford to send their children overseas to study, many, middle-class Malaysians, rich Malaysians were sending. And once that happened, they had to kind of, bring back their children here to study locally. And the government universities, of course, had affirmative action policies, with quotas for number of non-Bumiputras who could get in. So there was no space for non-Bumiputra students to go to university. So the government wanted to save foreign currency exchange, which was going out, because, that would weaken the ringgit again. So they contributed to the, establishment of, allowed the establishment of private universities to be formed in Malaysia. And many of these private universities, when they formed in Malaysia, they had what they call, they made arrangements with UK universities for 2+1 programs or 3+0, where they could do the whole degree in Malaysia.
I think we still have the same arrangement still today with various universities and Malaysian universities. Yes.
Yeah, I think what has changed is that the Malaysian private universities are frequently not allowed to have that, but Malaysian colleges still, many of them have those same arrangements basically with UK universities.
Okay.
Malaysian private universities, I think they have what they call dual degrees, where that means
Ah,
you get a local degree plus a foreign degree from a foreign institution as well, you see. So that contributed to considerable amount of change basically. And I think with the ringgit depreciating a lot, and the Malaysian Institute of Accountants expanding so massively, with local graduate students who did not have to go through any professional exams, um, Malaysian employers, particularly in the private sector, were interested in differentiation. How do
okay.
you differentiate between good quality accountants with good knowledge background and such wise, because MIA membership was so easy.
Okay, so I was just
So
wondering that if they are able to get the MIA membership without any professional qualification, so they were able to practice as an accountant and do auditing and all sort of go for all those professions without having like previously what we expected students to have ACCA or ICAW qualification or chartered qualification to go into audit.
yes, they
Okay,
could practice as accountants,
okay,
but I guess the only control was mainly, if you wanted to be an auditor, a signing off auditor, then you needed, the Securities Commission controls and things like that came in place later, basically after 1997.
okay.
But before that, yeah,
That is
you
quite
were basically
interesting
called an
to have
accountant. Yeah.
to provide an access to so much of membership to only graduates, which could actually make ACCA qualification a bit less desirable in if students are able to go into the accounting profession without those qualifications. So how do you think that shaped the accounting profession in Malaysia
Yeah.
at that time?
So that had a drastic change because, how did you differentiate between
Exactly.
there basically? And this is where many of these private university students also sought to sit for ACCS exams.
Okay. To get
So,
the differentiation between an MIA member and a professional accountancy body member from a global body.
exactly,
Oh,
exactly, I say. And at that time, before 1997, I guess, for a long time, ICAEW did not allow people to do the CA qualification without working in a chartered accounting firm.
okay.
Whereas I think now you can work in many other firms and get an ICAEW qualification.
Okay.
So in that environment, ACCA and CIMA basically expanded tremendously. You get me?
Yeah.
So yeah, that is the big situation.
So, well,
And also with the drop in the Malaysian ringgit and with the affirmative action policies of the government, many non-Bumiputras basically were, felt a bit discriminated, and they started looking at migration and job opportunities overseas and things like that. And in that kind of environment, if you had ACCA or CPA Australia or
yeah,
ICAEW CA qualification, then that was portable overseas
yeah,
and recognized. So, many of them went for that basically.
exactly. That is a global qualification, so you can just transfer those skills overseas. So,
Exactly.
based on my experience working in Malaysia and teaching Malaysian students, I always felt that accounting students are more uh, interested toward ACCA qualification, while you also have CIMA and ICAW qualification available in the country. So, what is your perspective? Why students are more interested to go for ACCA qualification instead of the other? And the gap is quite big, like majority, like if I talk with 900 students, 90 of them will say, I want to go for ACCA after my degree.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's an interesting phenomena, and I think I wrote this when I was doing my PhD in New Zealand in a long time ago. You see, ICAEW sought to be very elitist
Okay.
when they formed, whereas ACCA were broad-based and expanded much more faster. And the thing is, Wills about 30 years ago or 40 years ago, elitism was the might have been the way to go. Today, I think the way to go for any organization, whether it's universities or professional bodies or anything, is how many members you have.
Okay.
Because it's very funny, because if I was looking, if a graduate was looking for a job with an accounting qualification, and they were looking for jobs in accounting, and the employer was an ACCA, they would go for an ACCA qualified person.
I get it.
Because you want to promote your own qualification if you already have that qualification.
Exactly.
So in the Malaysian market, and I think in many developing countries as well today, if we see, and that is why I think ACCA is the biggest professional body today. Am I right? ACCA is the biggest professional body,
Exactly,
right?
yeah. ACCA is by far is the biggest. They have the biggest membership network. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's very simple, because if you ask people, which organization, which professional body you think is the best, you ask accountants. And if you ask, if 6 out of the 10 accountants who respond say are ACCAs, they're not going to say some other qualification, is it?
Yeah.
So I think that is the big change. It was a very interesting situation in New Zealand at that time when I was working at Massey University, because we had a MBA head who kind of, was very innovative. And so he had developed this executive MBA programs, which were delivered in all the major cities in New Zealand. And so, at that time, this is about 25 years ago. At that time, when they were delivering these professional MBAs all over New Zealand, and many MBAs who came out were, were from Massey University. If you did a survey, people would say and asked MBAs which MBA is good. The Massey MBA will come out as the best, because you're not going to put down your own qualification.
Okay. True.
So elitism doesn't work anymore today. It is your market share that is the most important thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's how in Malaysia, ACCA has become the biggest body. So I think when the Malaysian Institute of Accountants put out and statistics about, where their membership basically came, who they registered, the original qualifying bodies. Of course, government universities had lots of members in MIA.
Okay.
And the next one was ACCA, you see. And the Malaysian MACPA, or I'm not sure whether it's called MACPA or MICPA now, basically had very few members. Basically, in fact, they had shrunk to so small a number that they even stopped, setting their own professional exams. They basically adopted the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Australia's professional exams.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's interesting.
So, and of course, you would have the Malaysian law paper and the Malaysian tax paper. But other than that, it was the ICAA's examination structure.
Okay.
And when you passed the exams, you had the option of getting 2 memberships,
Both the local and the
ICAA.
ICA.
Yeah, yeah. You know, because if not, with that small membership number, they just could not survive. You say?
Yeah, true. Because at the end of the day, this is also a business. So
Yes,
without
exactly.
members, you cannot carry on.
Yeah.
Actually, that's what I can get. Like what SEMA actually has been trying to do is to expand their membership number throughout this region, actually in Asia, because without the number, because they're competing with ACCA, who has a vast majority of the numbers. So
Exactly.
that's another thing I was thinking, that with the new changes in technology, do you think there will be a shift from the students' perspective, that uh, they will be interested to go from ACCA towards SEMA? Because later on, I can see SEMA has been expanding throughout the world in terms of membership, and throughout the way they design their syllabus to be more reflective of the current business practices. So what is your take on that? What is the future? Uh, who is going to dominate in the future, whether it is going to still be ACCA or SEMA in this world of artificial intelligence?
Well, I think the issue is basically not. You see, the thing is, accounting. When we say an accounting profession, we are talking about a regulated field.
Okay.
And basically, SEMA's area of work, it is not a regulated field.
Okay.
That means, you don't have like you don't have to be a SEMA member to do the work. So the jobs that SEMA members work in is basically whether you have the skill sets to do the job or not whether you have the qualification. Whereas the field in which ACCA, ICAEW members work is not about so much about just the skill sets, but whether you can get registered, you have the qualifications. If not, you can't do the job. You see, and I think that is where ACCA might still dominate as in the accounting profession as such, because they are in the central area of the regulated field. That means auditing, taxation.
Exactly, I get it. I get that. That's much more clear. Yeah.
You see, well, SEMA members, of course, can do a lot of the IT stuff and the management accounting stuff, but I'm not going to hire a person because the person is a SEMA member. I'm going to hire the person because the person has the skill sets to do the job.
Yeah, when it comes to taxation and auditing, it is always going to be preferred if you have ACCA qualification.
Yeah, exactly. Or an ICAEW qualification, or either the chartered accountants or ACCA or CP Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see. And I think it's very interesting again, because I think professional bodies that are too difficult to get pass and get in. That means the professional bodies want to be elitist.
Okay.
Will not shrink. People are looking for. As I said, market share is a key factor in terms of future of more students, more market share.
Still today, I think ICAW is still maintaining their elitist point of view, where I think ACCA, to ensure that they have more, like largest market share, do you think they have been welcoming more members, or maybe changing their education structure to accommodate members to get their qualification? Did you notice any of such change in these professional bodies activities?
Yeah, I think it's a balancing act, whereby you don't want to be considered to be too easy, and your members don't have the required skill sets and the competency to do the job, while at the same time trying to go for market share and get as many members as you can. In the Malaysian market, I think now CP Australia is actually competing with ACCA. It's basically ACCA's main competitor.
Okay. What is contributing toward this interest toward CP Australia? Is it migration or any other issues are
I think migration is one.
okay.
There has been a lot of Malaysians going to. I think today you probably have, the number of migration is a big factor. And I don't know, from what I hear, sometimes maybe it's slightly the examination system and structure of CP Australia is much more flexible.
Okay.
Basically, because
Now, okay. Okay, so Prof, we were talking about how the students' demand or preference have been shifting from ACCA toward going for AICPA Australia. So, if you want to elaborate a bit more on what can be the possible reasons for such interest.
Yeah, that's a bit difficult because I think from what I understand, probably is because the examination structure is probably a bit more flexible, and maybe you do not have so many papers, and probably I don't know, because I think CP Australia is probably the body competing with ACCA for global dominance.
Okay.
And so as the second player in terms of market share, probably they have to try to make their exams more attractive. Then, ACCA as the market leader can afford to be a bit more elitist, maybe. I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Now, what I was thinking that as the other global accounting bodies have been updating, changing, making so many different types of modification into their approach toward membership, curriculum, have you witnessed the initiatives MIA has been taking to make their members more attractive toward the job market?
Well, I think that it's interesting because in the Malaysian context, I think, if I'm not wrong, about probably about 5 years ago, the Securities Commission, as well as I think the Securities Commission kind of instituted an investigation into the accounting profession, and which came out with a report that basically argued that MIA should be split up into a registration body and a professional body. That means the registration body is the body formed by Act of Parliament to register accountants, but the professional body will kind of be like a normal professional body, and they would set exams basically. And the idea was that the registration body would only take in members of professional bodies after that, no more graduates directly entering into membership.
Okay. So they wanted to change that entry route toward more professional.
Yeah.
So did MIA take those recommendations into practice, or?
Well, it's interesting because after that report came out, as to my best knowledge, there has been a paralysis in decision making.
Oh,
So that means there has been no change.
okay. What was the reason for such investigation? Is there any kind of acquisition or some kind of dissatisfaction from the industry?
I think there is probably some kind of dissatisfaction from the industry, as well as, because MIA members have been, there's an explosion in the number of MIA members, because all graduates automatically can get MIA membership. And probably, there's a feeling that, the quality is compromised. But I think there's, various other interest groups that already there, basically. Probably the public universities are an interest group, basically, because, their graduates would have to, their graduates would be competing in a market just like private university graduates, where else now their graduates had a privileged entry into MIA basically. So I think those kind of various interest groups have kind of, been there. And so that there's a paralysis in the decision making.
Okay. So, thinking about that initiative to have two separate bodies and not happening, so has there been any uh, development or changes in MI structure to make their members more attractive in the industry? Did they do anything at all, or they're just continuing with their own
I
policy?
think MIA is just continuing as it is because I think, various competing groups probably they are unable to, master a majority to kind of, do the changes. I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, because I think um, Malaysia is kind of a bit different from maybe UK now in the sense that, like, for example, in the medical profession in UK, you have the Royal College.
Yeah.
Whereas in Malaysia, specialization is through the universities,
Okay.
through a master's program in the universities. So that is because they don't, the government is wary about giving in to the profession totally controlling entry.
Okay.
Whereas government universities are under the control of government.
Yeah, so they can actually impose more regulation through that channel instead of
Exactly.
taking care or dealing with an additional body who is
Yes.
now going to be in control of monitoring and providing more access to the membership and all this.
When the members already control the entry, then basically the members do what is in their interest rather than government interests or whatever, There's competing interests always in any area.
So have you witnessed any development in the regulation in, for example, government initiatives toward the accounting profession in Malaysia? So has there
Um,
been more leniency or more restriction toward having more or less members in accounting
um,
profession from the
I
government
think
regulatory perspective?
I think the government is quite happy because of course, Malaysia is a multiracial country and each race has different interests. And I think at the moment, the government is quite happy with the situation as it is, I think.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so far, there has been many research on the cultural and social expectation from the accounting professions, accountants, and shaping this cultural and social expectation from different cultures in different countries that is actually having an impact on the global professional bodies. So, have you witnessed any of such expectation changing the way those global professional bodies are operating in Malaysia? Or do you think that they are, as you have already witnessed them operating in New Zealand, Australia, probably in Oman and Malaysia? So do you feel that they are still be able to maintain a uniform structure, or they need to adopt to the social norms and cultural expectations in different countries that go and operate?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think the accounting profession and maybe it's a very, very technical profession and it's a profession very closely aligned with business interests.
Yeah.
In comparison to like the teaching profession or the nursing profession or the medical profession. So for example, when I was in New Zealand, for example, the medical profession, the nursing profession, the teaching profession, there was a lot of pressure on them that they must be culturally sensitive to the indigenous people, basically the Maori population.
Okay.
You see, where else? Because I think the accounting profession is closely aligned with the business profession. There is no such pressure on the accounting profession and the indigenous population or anything like that, because health and education is very much a very contested area, with cultural sensitivities and things like that. Whereas I think the business, and that is why if you want to, if you are a doctor in UK, you cannot go straight to Australia or some other country and practice.
Yeah, same here in UK also.
Yeah, the medical profession is very restrictive.
Exactly.
Whereas with ACCA, you can go anywhere and practice, or it's very easily portable because probably because the business arena is actually largely influenced by global organizations rather than local organizations. In the context, I think even the accounting profession, is heavily influenced by things like World Trade Organization, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Services, and the World Bank and things like that. And that is why, you wouldn't find like the big four accounting firms, like big four medical firms or big four lawyers. To a certain extent, I think you have international law firms.
Yeah.
But probably not as dominant as the big four accounting firms are in accounting anywhere else, in any other profession in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Globally.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see. So I think accounting in that sense is quite different from the other professions.
Okay.
I mean, the big four, I think, dominance in auditing, you would not find in any other profession.
Yeah, exactly. Because when I was in Malaysia also, I saw that there are so many small audit firms, but in terms of scale, it's unmatched. Like the dominance the Big Four has
Yeah.
over the world actually is
Yeah.
unmatched to.
Yeah.
But still, we keep on seeing this news for KPMG. They're being fined for some things they have done. EY, Deloitte, they keep on getting those fines because of unethical conduct. So, although in accounting profession we keep on emphasizing on the issue of ethics and accountability, but still the Big Four name keeps on coming in terms of not continuing or performing things ethically. So where is the gap? What is actually causing this issue for this Big Four?
I think the problem is that in the first place, they allowed the four big firms to dominate the industry. And so I think we have come to a stage of they are too big to fail or to be shrunk or to be, truly punished. I think the last one that collapsed was Arthur Andersen, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the last thing that came from US, but still this Big Four, I think as you mentioned, I agree that when they found the government or regulatory body find that one of the Big Four has done something which is not part of the code of conduct, the fine they have to go through is nothing in terms of the revenue they generate in a year.
Agreed.
Yeah, so it's like the punishment is actually quite like mellow in terms of the impact they have for the business. So I do agree that sometimes it's nothing in terms of the fine they actually go through. In paper, it looks like that some million, but they're making billions every year from different types of audit services throughout the big companies across the world.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm probably this is a bit of colonialism and imperialism here. I don't know, but if you look at it, the big four audit firms are largely, I think, headquartered in either the UK or the US. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And in that sense, and since they are big four and they are global players, I don't think, and that provides the, US and UK to a certain extent to influence things through the big four. And so probably they have an inherent interest in them not failing, basically.
okay.
I don't know,
Probably, I think we can have a research on on this issue,
Yes.
probably. Yeah, this is quite an interesting research issue. But I was thinking that, do you think that this Big Four has any control over how the members, or they have any way to control over the way the global professional bodies operating? Because there is a link that all the members, they want to work for the Big Four. So whether there is any uh, way for the Big Four to have an impact on how these global accounting professional bodies will operate, or their curriculum, or the way they will want to expand their
Ah,
business around the world?
well, I think that's for sure. Basically, I mean, we were talking about ACCA being a dominant professional body,
Yeah.
um, and I think that probably is to a certain extent related to you know the Big Four as well, because if it's a the Big Four control the regulated business, at least in the big
Mm.
Fortune. I mean, the big companies in any major
Exactly.
developing country, other than maybe China or something like that. I don't know. And 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 so and the Big Four firms also transfer their workforce around the world, where they need gaps. And I think there is a kind of a common cultural basis that they would like all the accountants to have, kind of thing. And so when they have a common professional qualification, I guess you have been socialized into a particular cultural norms and things like that.
Okay.
So I think there is a close relationship between the Big Four dominance and the dominance of ACCA in the as a accounting profession. Maybe accounting is in that sense like that.
I understand.
Ah, you see. Where else, if you have like for example, health, you don't have any big
No.
major hospital that all over the world controlled by some.
Yeah, for example, engineering also, it's not that a few firms are there which is controlling the works and the profession that much. So
Yeah.
it's quite interesting actually that the level of control and dominance this Big Four has around
Yeah.
the world,
Yeah.
especially in accounting profession. And every student that I talk about, they dream of going to work in one of those institution, and
Ah.
the experience is often not what they expect. That is what I have been hearing, that the expectation that they have working for them, and when you actually go and start working from them, it's a different experience, because level of
Mm.
complexities, the work hours, everything is quite different compared to working for a mid-size local audit firm, although the scale is a bit lower, but
Mm.
the expectations are also a bit minimal.
Well, I guess there is the glamour there,
Yeah.
that's so that's and then of course I guess that probably the experience is useful if you go later on to any big company. And I think there is a close relationship between the Big Four and the chief financial officers of the major companies of the world.
Yeah.
And so if you have experience over there, then your chances of transferring to a big company is pretty good, I guess.
Okay. Then,
You
Prof,
know.
if you would like to like give some advice to anybody who is interested in accounting profession and want to go and work, so if they don't get an opportunity right after they have got their qualification, what how they can prepare themselves toward being able to actually make themselves marketable or attractive to the Big Four? What do you think that students can do to actually make themselves desirable by the Big Four?
I really don't know. I mean, I can't comment basically because I've had very little experience.
Okay. But do you
I
think
don't
that
know. You probably can.
like working for like any experience that they can get in audit profession perhaps will help in future, even if they don't get their dream job right away. But if
Yeah.
they can continue in the field, I believe that's what I have been talking and telling my students, that as long as you stay in your profession, in your field, and gain experience, if not today, in 5 years time, you can still continue and try, probably. That can be one way to look at it. Yeah.
True. It's interesting. I don't know. I mean, the legal profession, I guess, is quite interesting because I think I don't know. This is something I heard quite some time ago that a lot of people when they sit, I mean, in UK you sit for the bar exams, right?
Yeah.
And when they sit for the bar exams, they want to make sure that they top the bar exams because then they will be taken up by the big
Big law firms.
law firms. And if you're not taken up by the big law firms, your chances of making it big is diminished.
I agree. Yeah. True.
So I think there is to a certain extent if you want to work in the big firms, but if you are happy to go and work in the big firms, and you mentioned just now basically about, the accounting and finance qualification is more popular than the Bachelor of Accounting.
Yeah, I have been witnessing this trend that when you have these two qualification, one is purely BSc in accountancy as compared to BSc in a mixture of accounting and finance. Although you don't get that 9 exemption, which is the maximum, if you are doing an accounting and finance mixed qualification, but students are going to that qualification, which is a mixture of accounting finance, and probably with the hope that even in future they can either take the path of accountancy or finance instead
Mm,
of just going for a BSc accountancy. They feel that they are actually missing out from that finance job market. And
mm,
number of students have been decreasing. When I was working in Malaysia, now I'm coming here in UK, I have seen that the interest for students to actually have a pure accountancy BSc is decreasing over time. Uh, do you
okay.
see the same trend in Malaysia also?
Uh, I, I, I really can't comment on that much, basically, in Malaysia in recent times. But when I was at Nilai, the accounting and finance qualification was pretty popular, actually. Yeah,
Yeah, when
Um,
I was talking to students, they were saying that, yeah, they prefer to have best of both worlds
yeah,
to be able, because I think since COVID, the mindset for everyone has changed a bit because the business sectors are also have been changing, job opportunities are shrinking. So people want to have more options these days. And
mm,
I believe that is continue to have an impact in the business sector all over the world. How
yeah.
we used to operate are no longer going to be the norm. We
Yeah.
will have
And
to change.
I guess even the big four firms are not too keen on pure accounting students because they also take in other graduates and all that, isn't it? And then train them
Yeah,
to be
yeah, and
ICAEW members and
recently,
things.
I saw this news in US. There are top firms, for example, Facebook, uh, Dell. They are saying that they are cutting down on the requirement of having requiring a degree to enter those big firms. So they want to train people, and they want to have a route where anybody without a graduate qualification can come in, and they will train them to be able to perform. So this kept me thinking that for accounting profession also, this ACCA have, like when I was doing my degree that time, some of my friends, they didn't went for the university qualification. They went straight into ACCA. Although
Yeah.
you are not going to have any exemption, you are just going to start from scratch. You have to do everything, but that still is a route that you can pursue and still come out as a qualified accountant at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think, there's so many routes to pursue to become qualified accountants. And I don't know. I mean, as you said, since COVID, and basically maybe it's not now is a good time to move on to, like what is the impact of artificial intelligence and
Yeah, I was
such
thinking of that.
wise
Yeah.
on the accounting profession. It's very interesting because there's different views on one of the things is artificial intelligence going to eliminate a lot of jobs. And it's interesting because I was watching two different opinions. One is, in fact, it appears that artificial intelligence is actually wiping out more IT jobs than any other jobs, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. And I
You know,
saw that some of those video, because here in UK it is artificial intelligence everywhere. I have several trainings today, last week, the following week we are having these workshops, and I saw some videos where you can just now write codes.
yeah,
The account, like the things that you used to remember, memorize, and learn, you don't have to do anymore. You can just ask, and the thing that whether it is Chat GPT or whatever is giving you the code which you can just copy and paste, and you can develop a website, software. And this is quite scary. This is a bit scary. And
well,
yeah,
it was interesting because I was talking to my neighbor, and she actually has an IT qualification, and her job for a long time she was doing. Now she's kind of a housewife, but was quality control of new software. And
okay,
she says now her colleagues have been made redundant because artificial intelligence does the quality control.
okay,
And so and also I was watching another video that while the IT industry in India was growing, they are laying off IT workers.
okay.
you know where else? I think the area that probably is not affected is basically things like how builders, basically. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
artificial intelligence can't
Yeah,
build houses
actually,
for you.
yeah, I was having this conversation, and then I realized that things that the computers cannot generate, that you need a human intervention. For example, cooking food, then
Exactly.
yeah, all things that you actually need a human to grow. For example,
Yeah,
in the medicine profession, also in the medical profession, I saw that this artificial intelligence is giving you diagnosis.
yeah,
Is quite the same as going to a GP. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so and that's kept me thinking whether some of this will spill over to the accounting profession or not. Because there are so many things in accounting that we do, which you can actually use artificial intelligence. All those regular mundane things of data input and all these things can be done using AI. Do you agree?
Yeah. I think, I mean the interface between the point at which the data is generated. Once the data is generated, after that, everything can be done by artificial intelligence, I think.
Exactly.
The analysis of the data, the manipulation of the data and things like that. It's the point of, the data going into the system, whether it needs any human interface or not.
Okay.
And then, of course, the action probably will have to be done by humans again.
Okay. So it is the in
Yeah.
between, like the point of the data entry and when you actually do something with the data. In the middle, we are actually losing uh, any or losing the requirement of having a human to do all those data curation, data quality check and analysis and everything.
Yeah.
So, how do you think that is going to shape the accounting profession in the future? Are we going to see more redundancies in the accountancy, and how can the students prepare themselves for the future, this future version of accountancy with AI, obviously, installed within the profession?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Probably, many of the tests that probably the auditor does, probably the system can do it by itself.
Okay.
You get me, because the data is already there. Once the data is already there and the financial information is there, I think artificial intelligence can do a lot of manipulation and analysis
Okay. Yeah.
and provide recommendations, basically.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I was thinking that probably we can take this as a positive, that with artificial intelligence installed within the audit profession might be the judgment that comes out will be much better, and hopefully the amount of errors that sometimes happens when you have human taking care of all the steps will be much reduced if we can successfully integrate artificial intelligence in the accounting and audit profession.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it will be integrated. I think the jobs that need manual work is where the jobs are, basically. The
Okay.
jobs that don't need manual work and a lot of thinking is involved,
Yeah,
probably a lot of that will be done by the computers through artificial intelligence. But my question is, we're going to have a world which is basically very, very similar, because artificial intelligence will be making the same kind of judgment calls on everything.
exactly. True.
Whereas humans would make slightly different judgment calls.
Yeah, because for an AI, if they're not well prepared and structured, they are not going to see that slight variation that a human will pick up.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just keep on going to get, because AI is going to do things that you have structured that thing to do. So I'm
yeah.
not yet sure that you can just eliminate a human doing those accounting functions by installing an AI, and the reliability of that work is
Well,
going to
well,
become.
it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, if you look at Bangladesh, it's probably very similar to India,
Yeah,
and I think India actually, a lot of people are questioning the need for going to university and coming out, because the number of jobs available to university graduates is shrinking, where
right.
else the number of jobs that need like the motor car mechanic or the builder, or those jobs is where everybody wanted to go to. I mean,
Yeah,
we see housing shortages in UK, rental increases, house prices increases, and all that. Where else you don't see, accounting services shortages, or
yeah,
accounting services price increases tremendously, because everybody wants to be in an office working, and nobody
yeah,
wants to be out there
yeah,
in the uncomfortable, field work.
exactly. Yeah. And that's
Yeah,
why I think the government here is also emphasizing on vocational qualification, where you actually go and do something that has a professional, or I think a hands-on qualification, like a motor mechanic engineer or quality tester or something, to get a professional, more vocational qualification over here, instead of getting a degree, for example, in philosophy these days, are not much uh, appreciated, or they're saying that try to do something like they call here. Last time the previous prime minister was talking about Mickey Mouse degrees, where it actually, you spend a lot of money, you get a
yeah,
qualification, but it's no longer marketable. You don't get a job at the end of the day, so you end up
yeah.
just going for a very uh, for a job that require no graduate degree. So that's what they're trying to bring a balance here.
Yeah. And also universities have, once education is commercialized, then I think to a large extent, if you get into the university and you pay your fees, you expect a qualification at the end of the
Yeah, yeah,
point.
true.
And I think so that is also a factor where the number of university graduates have increased tremendously, and so the jobs are not there, basically.
Yeah,
You know. I mean, because it's very simple. I think this is the commercial logic, and the commercial logic is who is the paymaster,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That is
and you have to give
controlling the education sector these days.
exactly, and you have to give the paymaster what the paymaster wants,
Exactly. I do agree.
whether it's an employer or the customer or whoever it is, you know. And I think that's another part where the quality of um, university graduates is highest in countries where education has not been commercialized.
Yeah.
Probably like Germany and Japan and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, Prof, we are going to end our session here.
I think that yes. I
Yeah.
think we have
So
made most of it.
thank you so much for your time, and it was a wonderful discussion. I always have like so much fun talking with you, and maybe we can do it again, talking something else in future.
Yeah,
So
probably we'll look at it. Yeah, thanks a lot.
yeah, it was really fun having you today. So after a long time, we had something like this.
Yeah.
So let's try and do something like this in future. I'll ask you for another time.
We'll see, Rashidul.
Okay.
After you do this, I edit all this. And
Yeah,
also send me the PowerPoints.
I'll send you.
I'll have a look at it, basically.
Yeah, I'll
How
send
I
you.
you,
Okay.
you've done it very methodically. Thanks.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, thanks, Prof. Have a nice day.
Okay.
Send you the video
Thanks a
and
lot. We'll
the
catch up
slide.
sometime.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thanks. Bye. Oh.